two things as general ground rules that you guys should know. I'm still not good at riding. That's half the fun though. And this will be the second day that I have ever spent with the Insta360. I like the results that I got so far, just with yesterday, last night. I don't know, with the cold, the rain, and the guy cutting me off, and me having to like panic bail. I don't know, I was just kind of over it towards the end, and I would say a good 3/4 of what I recorded yesterday, my mic wasn't plugged in. That's probably one of my more annoying things. Like if someone was to ask me what the most annoying thing I could think of is, spending an entire vlog and thinking that you're getting really great content, it turns out that you're just talking to yourself, and then you're left with 30 minutes of you just holding a stick in your hand. It's really obnoxious. Some of the more beginner, Jesus Christ. Those that have seen my one wheel video, so a lot of differences are shared between a one wheel and these. A lot of similarities are shared between a one wheel and these, and usually the questions and a lot of similarities. Jesus Christ, Sean. Answers to a lot of questions. I didn't drink enough caffeine. Like, there's not enough caffeine in me to be holding a stick, doing this, and trying to form a sentence. Oh boy. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. All right. I'm gonna actually start. That's actually a pretty good trigger for me, just boom, implanting stuff. A lot of answers that I have to give for these things, very similar to a one wheel. How do you ride it? You lean. How do you stop? You lean. With electric unicycles, there's kind of always the same basis of questions. And how fast do they go? Some of the higher end models can go up to 60 miles an hour. How far can you go? Around 100 miles, depending on the model. How much do they cost? As a blanket statement, depending on what I'm riding. If I'm riding the S22, I'll usually just say around $3,000. If I'm riding my Monster Pro, I'll usually say right around $4,000, and I'll usually give the caveat that, you know, the price for entry is about $2,000. And that's going to lead us to the next FAQ, and that is, which wheel should I get? How do I get into this? What do I do? Move out of my way, you pink-hatted weirdo. Thank you. Oh, just kidding. It's candy cane color. Why are there so many people on Alki? Don't you guys know it's freezing? Go home. Go home. Why are you taking your baby? You guys can't see what I'm saying. So long as you have the ability to make fun of yourself, the most fun of all of this, and it's been stated by a few people, is definitely going to be learning how to ride. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely would have loved to have skipped right past the falling a lot stage and the dropping my wheel stage. But you can't really win them all, I guess. So many people. When shopping for a wheel, there is a ton of options out there. Every wheel has their own problems, their own set of backstories, and you know, this is still a very, very new thing, all things considered, and there's still a lot of quirks and a lot of kinks to be worked out. My best advice to you is going to be, make sure that you absolutely have a good company, make sure that they have good support and good track records. I can really only speak for two companies, and I've only had any experience with two companies. One of them by proxy. I don't have any companies that I could say anything negative about. I'm sure that will probably happen eventually. But at this time, it's like everyone's doing their job, and I'm not really going to recommend any one company over another at this point. We'll see. As far as ordering and as far as buying goes, you kind of have a couple things you need to consider, and that is suspension or not. This obviously has suspension, shock absorber in the back, and performance in general, I guess. You know, like, do you want a ton of range or do you want top speed? Do you want both? Do you want both with suspension? Those options are going to lead to the biggest byproduct of anything that is higher performance, and that is going to be weight and cost. With bigger wheels comes weight, and with weight comes different challenges. If you guys are living on a 4th or 5th floor and you don't have an elevator, I wish you the best of luck. That's not to say that a 60-pound wheel is going to be, you know, that much easier or that much more convenient than a 120-pound one, but if you want a wheel that's going to be able to do 60 miles an hour with a 100-mile range, you're going to have a heavy-ass wheel. It's just the byproduct of batteries, and the more of them equals, obviously, weight. When it comes to weight, and it comes to suspension, it comes to the actual wheel itself being bigger or smaller, I can tell you that having a bigger wheel with more gyroscopic effects going forward helps you balance laterally more. Every wheel shares the same kind of variation of parts, and that would be, you have a motor, you have batteries, you have an IMU of some sort, and in that IMU you have forward and back stabilization and nothing left and right. It's like, what's going to stop you left and right? Nothing. That kind of leads to the point of, yeah, they're kind of hard to learn how to ride. I have definitely had an easier time than a lot of the people that I've seen on forums, but now in my mid-30s, I'll tell you, that coordination goes away. Once you do learn, everything that you would have had any kind of reservation about, be it the weather, time, cost, yeah, it's worth it. One of those things that's always funny, motorcycles, cars, driving a 5-speed, doesn't matter what it is, everyone has their, like, aha explanation of how they ended up learning, and everyone's kind of different, but at the same time, I think what holds true amongst most people is going to be the fact that now that they do ride, they're mostly speaking out of there. To that, I would say that it's not really anyone's fault, and what it comes down to is pretty simple, in that now that I can ride, if I think about how I'm doing it, I fall. Like, how am I staying up right now? I don't know. I'm not going to think about it because I don't want to fall. I mean, that's the honest to God truth right there. It's not something that really makes sense even when you are riding. Ugh, God. See, I just thought about it for like 2 seconds. And I was like, ooh, I'm wobbly. Yeah, I was just sitting there trying to think to myself, like, how could I explain this? Oh, don't fucking hit me. The fact that I can't really explain it is one of the cooler things about it. And it's cool because the long and short is you don't really think about it, you just kind of go. It sounds like you're trying to be cosmic and mystical and, you know, whatever when you say it, but you really do just kind of think like go. And you don't even really think go, you lean and you expect it to do a certain thing and it does. So with that said, the wheel kind of becomes an extension of your body. And the coolest part of it is that, you know, you're a cyborg that can do 60 miles an hour. I would say I am somewhat good enough to trust myself to not hit somebody on a sidewalk. I'm not going to take that chance while I'm holding a camera. There is a lot of time spent sitting, waiting for people to get out of your way, especially if you're in the city. Being in Seattle, it's kind of a bit more precarious. All right. So as things become more natural when you're riding, it definitely does feel like you are a cyborg. Like, it just feels like all of a sudden you can run 60 miles an hour, or 45 in this case, and jump over things and yada yada. Oh my God, there's so much wind. It is pushing me around. Like, so as I'm sitting here flailing like a leaf in the wind, kind of brings me to downfalls, which I would think would be obvious, but at the same time, you know, there's people out there who just assume that everything's going to work and wheels are going to stay vertically, and that's not the case. Okay, what are you doing? Right there's a really good example. Don't expect cars to see you. Don't expect them to get out of your way. You don't have a license plate, they probably don't care. I hope that's not true of everyone, but in a lot of cases it is pretty true. Even when you do have a license plate, cars still don't really care, I should say that, but... So I would say number one is definitely going to be cars. Outside influences are absolutely huge, and that could be someone running in front of you, it could be a car hitting you or a car pulling in front of you as well. The other one, as my hands are frozen because I didn't wear gloves, would definitely be environmental factors. If it's cold, you're going to be colder. If it's wet, you're going to be wet, so on and so forth. Wear heated gear, you'll be fine. So, as with anything with a battery and a motor, they can die. Or you can overuse them. Think of if you're drilling something and you have a weak drill or your battery's starting to go out, eventually that drill just stops. And the same is very true of these, which is terrifying. Shout out to Muhammad for letting me use this clip. Really nice guy, and super big bummer that it happened to him. And it's one of those clips that I'll just be honest, I wish I would have never seen. So with cutouts being a thing, yeah, it's scary. I would say in the vast majority of cases, wheel cutout could probably be avoided. And you have a lot of indicators that will tell you, slow down. So you'll have beeping, and you'll have what's called pedal tilt back, which is where the unicycle will kind of force your feet backwards. If you ignore the beeping, which are warnings, and if you ignore the pedal tilt back, yeah, you're going to go down. A lot of people spend the majority of their time what is called riding the beeps. And you're sitting there testing fate and playing with chance, you know, like how much faster past the beeps until the motor cuts out. Depends on how heavy you are, depends on the incline, depends on how much battery you have. If all of those things put together equal the perfect storm, there you go. If falling at any kind of speed past walking is something that can happen and does happen, I would strongly suggest you gear up. And with that said, one of the most like ubiquitous, I can't really call it a trend because trends usually have to be kind of cool, knee guards, knee and shin. I had these already anyways, and it just so happened that everyone else seems to wear them like it's the thing. I am wearing a full face helmet, and again, I don't have to worry about my face being cold. And if I'm gonna go face first into the ground, something between you and the pavement. Oh God. It is 34 degrees right now. I'm not sure what it is with the wind chill, but good Lord, it is windy. I'm getting my ass kicked. Weird sounds. Oh, that wasn't me. The squeaking was that truck. So if you're demanding more from your wheel than it can offer, and it shuts down on you, it's gonna hurt. But you probably had warnings, whether you heard them or not. I don't know. As with anything, there's pros and there's cons. Up to you to decide if it's worth it to you. With anything, there's pros and there's cons. It's really just up to you to decide whether it's worth it. Obviously, I say yes. And yeah, it's totally worth looking as ridiculous as I do. I think they're cool. If anyone who's starting was to ask me what wheel they should get, I would want to tell them to research more, but at the same time, I don't really think that helps. As you research more, and people have very, very strongly differing opinions on these wheels. Well, depending on who you ask, I'm either riding the biggest piece of crap and the biggest waste of $3,200 that has ever touched the market, or I'm riding the absolute best wheel out there. Which is true, it depends on, I don't know, where you bought it from. If you got an early version of it that had motor problems. If you buy your starter wheel and you spend $2,000 on it, and let's say that you happen to get good quicker, well, chances are going to be that you're probably going to outgrow it. And when you outgrow it, which is going to be quick, you've just wasted $2,000. If you buy the wheel that you find to be sexy and attractive and the one that, you know, your favorite influencer is riding, I think you're going to be more inclined to go out and ride. You know, as opposed to your dinky little toy that you got on Amazon, you might not be that inclined to ride it. So if it takes you an extra day and you go into it knowing that you're going to have a little more frustration because your wheel's bigger, I think you'd be much better served getting the wheel that you initially want. What people don't seem to understand is you're not just going to stand on the wheel and it's not just going to jump straight to 60. It's not a Tesla. It doesn't have like insane amounts of torque. You always do have the option of just jumping off to a certain point. I mean, you can jump off at any point in time. Same could be said about flying in an airplane. You know, a lot of people will say you just have like this trust fall. And I think that's a really good analogy because you really do just kind of have to jump on, lean forward, and trust that the wheel is going to go forward and not just put you on your face. You really do just kind of have to trust the fact that these manufacturers know what they're doing and just go for it. Suspension versus non, are you going over bumpy stuff? Whether you're going off-road or not, like what I just went over, it was bumpy. And if I didn't have suspension, I would have felt it more. Yes, I think it's absolutely worth it. It is my strong opinion that non-suspension wheels are going to be kind of phased out. I think there's just too much benefit to having suspension. It makes it safer, it makes it more plush. So if you're cruising along, and see if I can see one. Yeah, I got nothing. But you happen to hit a broken section of concrete, you don't have suspension, you're gonna feel it. And if you're going fast enough and you're on a road, it's probably gonna buck you off the wheel. So for me, especially being in Seattle, Washington in general, where the roads are absolutely terrible, it's kind of a vital thing. Suspension is definitely something that's a necessity, and I probably wouldn't ride without it. I do have the Monster Pro, which is non-suspension, but I'll be selling it soon. I am saving up to get the Master Pro. It's definitely next on my list. Insanely awesome wheel. 60 miles an hour, you lean, $3,000, and range of about 100 miles. That's definitely not true of all wheels, but you know, a year from now, who knows? But I can tell you that I'm insanely excited to see what comes next. And as far as the innovation of all this stuff goes, it's going to be pretty freaking rad. Alright, so one of those key points of riding within your means is making sure that, like, I know that I'm not good enough to be able to stop super quick. And I definitely wouldn't bet myself against a bus on that. So I'm going to go extra slow around other moving things. A question that I've had to answer a few times now is, why not scooters? Scooters are still dope. But if you look at where my hands are right now, one of them's holding a selfie stick, right? And the other one is free. If I had one hand off of a scooter, I don't have a brake or I don't have a throttle. And with my hands right now, minus the fact that I'm holding myself up so I can stop to talk to you guys, I can do 60 miles an hour for 100 miles off-road through dirt. And again, my hands are free. So as the perspective of somebody who is in line with being a peacekeeper, that allows me the freedom of being someone who's doing a run and gun at 60 miles an hour. If I was on a scooter, definitely not possible. I'm not trying to weaponize an innocent thing, but at the same time, everyone utilizes things in a different way. For different necessities comes different innovations. And with those innovations comes better products. So military and police start riding these things. Guess what? You're going to have that much better of a product. I can tell you right now that a lot of the innovation is definitely not going to be in the hands of the enthusiast. Sure, a lot of design is going to be based off of that, but at the same time, you get military spending their funding, which is realistically our dollars anyways, on something like this, you're going to get an insanely good product. So yeah, yes, it's worth it. Yeah, it's fun. It's so much fun. I would have to honestly say that, yeah, it's more fun than motorcycles. Yep, I said it. It's more fun than motorcycles. Anyone who looks at a motorcycle and thinks that they are synonymous with fun, or anyone who rides, I would say, if you haven't tried, or if you have and you gave up, get back on. If you found this video because you saw someone riding and it sparked interest, that in itself tells me that you'll enjoy it. If it looks cool, trust me, it feels a trillion times cooler. If it looks dumb, you're probably not going to like it. It's probably not your thing. So I started a Patreon. There's nothing currently on there now. If you guys want to see what's in the life of Sean that I can't post on YouTube and can't post on Instagram either, just consider this your little tip to pique your interest. As I said earlier, I am currently working on getting a Master Pro. I will then have the S18, the S22, the Monster Pro, and the Master Pro to review. If you guys are interested in seeing any of those, let me know. You know, a lot of me doing this video and sharing any of this information with you guys is kind of self-serving, in the fact that the more that buy wheels, the more demand there is, the more companies are going to want to put out better ones. And the more companies that'll kind of pop up. You know, this is definitely an industry where a lot of innovation still needs to happen. I'm excited for the future. I'm also kind of excited that everything's still in the beta stages and nothing's super streamlined yet. I mean, you can get like the InMotion, I think it's the V11 on Amazon. Don't buy that wheel. But you know, there's really not too many things out there that are actually streamlined yet, and that's kind of one of the cool things about this, is you're definitely the beta tester, and you're also kind of the test dummy, I guess, a little bit. My hands are numb. It's definitely gonna start snowing again. Actually, I just saw a flake. Son bitch. Any questions or curiosities or things that you kind of want to see covered from here on out in the future, this is definitely the segue into like more EUC videos, electric unicycle. And there's going to be a ton more to come. I'm just having way too much fun doing this to stop. So, might as well make videos, right? That's what I do for a living now anyway, so yeah. Be safe, have fun. I will see you guys in the next one, which will actually be a lot quicker than this one has taken to get to before. Well, let's just say that I'm shooting for, trying to get something out again before Christmas. Until then, Merry Christmas to all you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.